I'm Brad Vickers.
And my name is Greg Spooner.
I'm Dylan LaValle.
I'm Jordan Hansen.
We are Ocean Adventure Racing Northwest. This summer, this June, we're competing in the Shepherd Ocean Fours Rowing Race 2006. And what that is it's the first rowing race of its kind across the North Atlantic Ocean. The route is going to take 15 boats, our boat being the only American crew out of the 15, across the North Atlantic from New York to Falmouth, England.
But I saw this poster and it just kind of captured my imagination. I said, Greg, we should row across the Atlantic, and he said no. And then I called up Brad, and Brad said, well, let's think about that. Just kind of came down to we talked it out, Brad and I, and we decided that it could be done. I called up Greg. He got pretty excited about it, but he wouldn't commit for the first month. But after a little month of arm twisting, he hopped on and gave Dylan over the Christmas break to think about it, and he came back, and we formed Ocean Adventure Racing Northwest.
Of course, I had hesitation. Yeah, it's life altering to the point where it could change my life or it could take my life.
It's not something you just wake up one morning and decide to do.
Unless you're Jordan Hansen.
Like Brad said earlier, we had such a great time rowing together in college. I mean, Greg said he didn't know us that well, but he knew we were all on the same team together. At UPS we had a great team dynamic. It's a small group of committed guys that took that small group, and you went fast enough to beat some D1 schools, and that kind of commitment that's forged through that creates a bond of trust that even though you might not know someone as well personally, I'd say Brad's probably the one I knew the best before I hopped into this.
Which is why I should have hesitated even more.
And but yeah, it just comes down to the trust and building on something that we'd all loved so dearly in college and taking it to the next level.
Singles that Greg's talking about that we row in weigh maybe 30 pounds. This boat, when we're fully loaded with supplies, gear, all of our food, is going to weigh in excess of 3,500 pounds.
The best analogy I've heard, and someone else came up with this, is that the difference between what we rode in college and what we're doing now is a 100-meter or 100-yard sprint and hiking the Appalachian Trail. It's the same motion. You're still using your feet, but your gear is entirely different. Running a 100-yard sprint, you're on a track that maybe might vary this much, and Appalachian Trail, you're doing more elevation than you would in climbing Everest.
You're on a 29-foot boat, and really only 18 feet of that is actual living space, and half of that is your engine room, which is the deck, and then you have a 5 by 8 foot section that tapers in the stern. That's your home. So imagine living in a tent for 60 days, and then walking right outside to a stationary bike, and running that bike for 12 hours a day.
Please tell me this is going to be more interesting.
I
really hope so.
I mean, the waves are going to be. I mean, that's an entirely different challenge. But I mean, that's one aspect. It's not that bad to everybody's withstood stuff like this for an hour, but then multiply it. Take the most minor annoyance and then multiply it by thousands.
And as far as actually training for this and getting used to it, there's really only one way to do it, and it's quite simple, and that's just to do it. Get the boat race ready and take it out on the Puget Sound or into the Pacific Ocean, and put yourself in those situations beforehand.
And one of the plans we have as far as training is going to be we're doing 2 10-day cruises, one out and around Vancouver Island, and one out into Nia Bay and past Nia Bay out into the Pacific. And the reason we chose 10 days is that everyone that's done this says that the first week is by far the hardest. Once
you're out there, it's not so much a race. I mean, it just becomes a way of life. I mean, when we're out there, it's not like we think about racing every day. That's a grand goal, but it comes down, you're living it right then, and it's your job. It's your 9 to 5 that just happens to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The boat is a standardized design. It was built in Devon, England by the race organizers called Woodvale Events. It's biaxial fiberglass over a foam core, and it's 29 feet long, 6 feet wide. The shell itself weighs 800 pounds without any additional equipment.
it really is accessible. It's one of the last true great adventures that's accessible. You can't go climb Everest today unless you've either got years and years of mountaineering experience and are lucky enough to get a job doing it, or you've got $1 million to have someone pull you up there. And this is one of the last great challenges that really require you to master what it is, everything about what it is you're doing.
Organizationally, we have groups like the Seattle Yacht Club, who's going to be a big financial supporter for us.
They've been a huge help so far. I mean, they have a wealth of knowledge. They got a lot of resources, and they believe in us. They were probably the first really big sponsor to hop on board so far. So we're really happy to have them on board.
And how the finances work for this is our full budget, and Jordan puts it best, is if we went and bought everything at Nordstrom's, the boat and everything else would be $300,000. But really, cash, we need about $80,000 to $100,000, and that's for buying the boat, shipping it, the trailer, all the stuff that you actually have to buy, the race fee, getting us to New York and then back from England, that kind of stuff. So that's the cash we need. And one thing we hadn't touched on yet is there's no prize for this race. You don't win anything by getting to England first. Just that we'd be the first Americans to cross the North Atlantic Ocean, and that's really what we're in it for.
It's it's just experience of a lifetime. It's an incredible challenge.